Good morning. My name is Natalie Cole, and I'm publisher and CEO of OurWeekly Media and the West Coast Expo.
And I'm David Miller, Chief Operating Officer of OurWeekly Media and West Coast Expo.
Thank you, Reverend Williams of Brookins AME, for hosting us today. I'd like to also thank the attendees for joining us today and for participating in the forum. And especially I want to thank the candidates, one of which is likely to be the next mayor of our great city. Thank you for your dedicated work that you do on behalf of the City of Los Angeles, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you to the Brookins family and staff, and the OurWeekly staff, our moderator and panelists.
We apologize that we're unable to be there personally today. The date and time of this forum was driven by the availability of our candidates, and it so happens that it's Black Press Week in D.C., to which David and I have several meetings to attend.
Although Natalie and I regret not being there in person, we are more than confident that our staff and volunteers are fully prepared to deliver an engaging and informative forum. So, Natalie, what does it take to be a good mayor?
Great leadership, political savvy, administrative skills, the ability to envision the future and inspire others, the ability to attract business to the area, jobs and tourists, and to have great listening skills.
And thank you all for being here and doing something that most Americans don't do anymore, which is to come together as a community to take communion about politics. Something that people have checked out doing because when you look at things at the national level, you wonder whether this country is capable of solving our problems anymore. It seems like one party it's more important to kill the other party than to solve our problems. At the state level, we wonder whether we can have an honest dialogue anymore to move forward this great state of California. And so there's a lot of cynicism and skepticism out there. But I sense that you are here because you are optimists. You are believers in the best sense of the word. And I come to you today as a candidate for mayor because I believe. I believe in this place. I believe in this space. I believe in its people. I believe in its neighborhoods. And I am running for mayor to put LA back to work, to bring jobs to Los Angeles, and to make City Hall work for everybody again.
Now I stand here today as a product of the LA Unified School District. I stand here today as someone who began my career interning for Mayor Tom Bradley. When I was student body president at high school, the John F. Kennedy High School, I was nominated for an award for the Mayor's Youth Leadership Award for the city. And I was so excited. I was one of 40 kids across the country, across the city, to be a color country, across the city of Los Angeles for leadership that we had done. And I met Tom Bradley in the tower of City Hall. And at that time, I was getting ready to go to UCLA. And my parents assumed that I was going to run our small family business that my grandfather had started 65 years ago, called Frontier, because the valley was a new frontier then. And that was what I was going to do. I was going to go to school, counting, go back, and run that business. And instead I met Tom Bradley and was inspired.
As you heard a moment ago, I did come to Los Angeles to begin my career. I moved to Los Angeles in May of 1987, 25 years ago. And I've been a lawyer in this town pretty much that entire time. I spent some time as a federal prosecutor in Los Angeles. I spent some time as the co-chairman of AIDS Project Los Angeles, one of the largest local charities in our community, and I was also the chairman of the board. I also had the privilege of covering Los Angeles on our local airwaves, on KEBC and KRLA. And some of the things that I was able to do was be one of the first media outlets that provided interviews and airspace and airtime for the parent trigger legislation, for the parent revolution, to expose what was a growing rape kit backlog within the Los Angeles Police Department, to expose what was complete inequity in the way that our LAPD and LAUSD Police Department was issuing truancy tickets within the school district.
The question is, why do I want to be Los Angeles' next mayor? I was asked that question last night, and the person who asked me the question said, answer it in one sentence. That was really hard. But what I said is this: I want to build a city where you can find a job, a place where you can afford, and a way to get there that doesn't include a car. And if you decide to have children, you have choices on how to educate them without punctuation. That was one sentence. Now, I've been councilwoman for the last 11 years, next year it'll be 12, and I've been a relentless fighter for the development of housing for people at all income levels, people at all status levels, including people who are homeless and mentally ill, women running from domestic violence, grandparents raising their grandchildren, and market rate housing too. All over the downtown area, the South Los Angeles area. As I drove down here today, I was very thrilled to look at the project that is open now, grandparents raising their grandchildren, right next door to Challengers Boys and Girls Club, down the street from an elementary school, so a grandparent raising their child can either go out of the side gate and take their child for exercise and class, or just walk up the block. I want to build a city like that, so it's easier to raise a family. It's easier for people to live. We've only grown by 100,000 people over the last 10 years. So we have the opportunity to correct some of the things that we didn't do in the previous decade. We have been fortunate, because of some of the transformative projects that we've had, to bring 90,000 new jobs into the city of Los Angeles. But what I did is I made sure that those jobs were linked to nonprofits in the South Los Angeles area, like Ph.D. jobs, like the Coalition for Responsible Community Development, like Job Corps, the YMCA, Chrysalis, so that we could take people from disadvantaged positions and put them into recovery and trajectory positions so that they could build a life. It's one thing to talk about buildings, it's one thing to talk about projects. It's another thing to go into a project and have someone stop you and say, you that lady, right? Yes. You know what, I got a job, and I'm paying my bills, I kept my house, I'm in an apartment, I got my teeth fixed. Important things that we might take for granted because we're fortunate, but we understand that we have to continue to push and to fight to bring other people along with us. I want to be your next mayor so that I can do that kind of work. The mayor is a person, the leader, the chief executive officer, to bring net new revenue into the city of Los Angeles, to close our structural deficit, to eliminate our gap, to right our ship, to continue to fund our core services, fire, police, sanitation, and then to bring new jobs, to put people, whoever wants to work, back to work. I want to be that person for you. If you want the politics of soft and pretty, although I like to believe that I am pretty on some days, I'm not your woman. But if you want somebody who's going to tell you straight out, tell you yes and then follow through, tell you no when I don't agree, I'm your candidate. I want to be your next mayor. Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to intervene with a question if I could now.
Absolutely. We'll give it to the editor.
The current LA Weekly, and this is directed to Eric Garcetti. Actually, I want everybody to answer this question. The current LA Weekly, in a pretty damning article by Gene Mattis, I guess his name is pronounced, talks about a 5-year deal that Mayor Villaraigosa cut with the unions that cost the city $1 billion in 2007, culminating this year in a 25% raise. Quote, in retrospect, the 2007 contract ranks among the worst decisions Villaraigosa made in 2 terms as mayor, perhaps the worst. It further says that the city still faces a $216 million deficit next year. Included in that figure is a $66 million bill for employee raises. The article said that you, Jan Perry, Wendy Greuel, and Bernard Parks all voted to support this deal. Why would you agree to that?
The times in 2007 were quite different than now, and we saw in 2008 this entire country, not just this city, face the toughest economic winds it has ever faced. In this city, when certain taxes go down most years, like sales tax go up, property taxes are down, and vice versa, they bounce out. But this was the first time in our lifetimes all of them went off the cliff. That was due to the home foreclosure crisis. Now, there was 2 pathways we could have taken. We could have done what Sacramento does, which is budget through your heart, and kick the can down the street, say, I'm sure more revenues will come in, and then every 3 months you have to make more and more cuts. Or we could have done what some suggested, and I saw other cities around the country do, let's take an axe to government and change what we do. The city of Colorado Springs, Colorado, sold off its police helicopter, told its residents they should bring their own lawnmowers and trash bags to their parks because they weren't going to do that anymore, and closed down their libraries except for 2 days. Neither pathway were acceptable to me.
So as I said earlier, 2007 economic indicators were different than they were, and the world fell apart after that. And so of course, if we had to do it all over again, it'd be great to be able to do it all over again, but that's not an option that is available to us. So as we move forward, one of the biggest issues that we have to tackle is pension reform. Now we have a plan on the table now that will move the retirement age up to 65 from 57. When the pension system was originally designed back in the 1920s, the average lifespan of a person was in their 50s. And now people are living much, much longer. That's a good thing. But now we have to make some adjustments to that. And so what we're going to be grappling with, and I have to say that I was prior to 2007, assistant pro tem, then became a pro tem of the city council. And so I was part of the development of that plan when I was at the table as part of EERC. And I'm glad that we're finally going to consider it as part of the city council. I'm in support of pension reform because we have to develop a system that is sustainable over the long term, or the people who get their pensions now won't be able to continue to get them, and the ones who have not yet been hired will have to absorb the difference. And that's where we start. That is just the beginning, to raise the retirement age so that people are going to have to work longer to compensate, so that we can have a system that will survive.
The important part of leadership is how you respond to a crisis. I like to say that a budget problem or a budget challenge is not like fine wine. It does not get better with age. You have to be honest about it. And in 2007, when the city administrative officer came in and said, here's what we believe our revenue is going to be, here's how we think this is going forward, this is reasonable, and we're going to be transparent about it. But the most important thing is to say, okay, what happened after 2007? The bottom dropped out of this economy. People lost their homes. People's businesses are not surviving. I know as a family business owner how difficult it has been in the last several years to make ends meet. But it is about how you respond. It's about revenues and it's about expenditures. And it's about making sure that you look at what are our priorities. We do have a deficit that is proposed in this next year. It's not been taken care of.
Once again, we're back to this discussion about the economy in 2007. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the economy was better in 2007. But I said on my radio show, many of you knew, the city was still in deficit, significant deficit. They were spending more money than they had then. So giving raises at that time was irresponsible. And even if the economy is healthy, that doesn't mean that public officials can spend your money recklessly. That's not an excuse. That means that they're spending your money and hoping that the economy pulls them up. I'm not willing to take that risk with your money. Now, this business about laying off employees and being honest, let's talk about that for a minute. They told us that they were laying off thousands of city employees. They transferred 1,600 employees to the DWP over a period of time. They didn't lay them off. They transferred them. I checked with the DWP. They didn't have a help wanted sign, needed 1,600 new employees. And those employees got raises. That's not honesty. Thank you.